Welcome to the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila and I am your host. In this podcast, I invite people to tell their stories of their travels, hobbies, and passions. These podcasts are also now available on my All About You YouTube channel. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story. Welcome back to the All About You podcast, and we are on our final country number 10 on our travels with Pier. So Pier, let's go travelling to Egypt.
Egypt, yeah. So from the States to Egypt, and I started there in June 2011. Cairo, that was the capital of Egypt. In a matter of fact, it was Katamaya Heights. That's a region of Cairo, a posh and secure neighborhood of Cairo, where many other expats had a residence. Katamaya Heights was big. It covered an area of 1.5 million square meters, surrounded by a high wall with only 2 entrance gates to control. Because Cairo is known for many coups and
It's had a lot of problems.
Lots of problems, so it was very well secure. Downtown Cairo, it is a huge city. It has 10 million people. That is just the downtown, the center. Then if you look to the metropolitan population, that is twice as high, 20 million. Cairo is split by the river Nile, and some 200 kilometers away from Alexandria, that is on the top, located in the Mediterranean Sea. The majority of the population is Sunni Muslim. About 10 to 15% is Coptic Orthodox Christian. And they were living quite orderly next to each other. Only when Morsi came in power, then more or less it changed and many churches were burned down and so that was not so nice. But in general, they live next to each other. And for us, it was also good because we had religious holidays of the Islam, Muslim, and we had the religious holidays of the Christians. So we had quite some holidays.
So you did quite well on the holidays.
Now, the office of the company was in downtown Cairo, so driving from Katamaya Heights to the office was a big challenge. Most of the expats had a driver, but I did not like that system. Or the driver, what I heard from the stories, was late, the bridge was open, or they had to bring their mother to the clinic, or whatever. So I drove by myself. And a safe way of driving was to leave the house very early, 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I returned around 4 p.m. So that was more or less missing the high traffic in Cairo. And Katamaya Heights itself had everything. It had parks, shopping centers, golf courts, tennis courts, you name it. 2 swimming pool clubs, restaurants, banks, you name it. Everything was there. It was more or less an city on itself, yeah, and walk and jog because I like to jog. In that time I was still running, so I ran every afternoon when I came home. The first thing what I did was run for an hour. Egypt, the country, it was very difficult to make a choice in the excursions and what to explore because there is so much to see. Also of history going back more than 6,000 years. The pharaohs started to rule in Upper and Lower Egypt. That is when the Nile goes lower. So that is Alexandria, Cairo, the top part. And the Upper Egypt is where the Nile is coming from, and that is Sudan. That is nowadays Sudan. Yeah. So the pharaohs ruled over those. That time was one country, Egypt and Sudan, in 3000 before Christ. Their culture and living standard was very high. Almost everything from that time is available and accessible for us. The writing, the hieroglyphs, described how they lived, and the many temples, pyramids, burial places are well preserved, and it is overwhelming. Wherever you come, do you know that in whole Egypt there are 118 pyramids?
No, I don't.
118.
Whenever you see a picture of the pyramids, there's maybe half a dozen, but there's 118 pyramids.
Yeah. And
that's another incredible feat of engineering.
Yeah. And the most famous one are Giza, but not famous, but for the tourist industry, because the tourist industry, they concentrate on the three pyramids there. But I dislike the souvenir sellers and the aggressive people who are going to you.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about it, yeah.
And when you go to the other pyramids, a little bit further away along the Nile, there are not the aggressive tourist sellers or the souvenir sellers.
Right.
So I visited the Giza pyramids once and for all, no more. No. I had friends living in Hurghada. Hurghada is about 5 hours drive from Cairo, and it is on the Red Sea. A very nice place. And the friends, there was a German man, and he was married with a Colombian lady, she had a child, and he was operating manager of one of those resorts, those huge resorts. So I spent there a few times, and it was nice because he was like me, he liked scuba diving. So, okay, Pier, let's scuba dive this weekend. So I drove down from Cairo and scuba dived with him in the Red Sea, and then
one of the best places for scuba diving is Egypt, isn't it?
One of the best. Well, the Red Sea, in the Red Sea. When you go down, you have Oman again on the corner, and that is nice as well. But it is famous for their corals. So I liked it. What I also did in Egypt is a few Nile River cruises. In that time, Egypt went in turmoil. At first, they elected Morsi as a president. That was in June 2012. And the whole tourist industry collapsed more or less, was a standstill. And I had a Dutch friend, he lived in Katamea Heights, and he was operations manager of a big tourist group, Movenpick. I don't know if you've heard about it. And they had 3 river cruise ships. In the conversation, he said, I had to lay down 2 ships because there are no tourists. But I like to keep one ship running because of the expertise to keep the staff and because if it picks up, I have to be ready. So he offered river cruises for a big discount. And there we are on a river cruise ship with 14, 15 people.
Marvellous, that would be my idea of heaven.
And all the staff was there. In the evening, the dancing groups and the belly dancing and you name it, and the music groups. And if you came in the restaurant, there were 3 or 4 tables, and it was all.
Oh, sounds perfect.
So an excellent service, but it was, for that company, of course, or for the whole tourist industry, it was terrible. Though with those river cruises, I saw a lot. We went up the Nile, down the Nile, Luxor, all the places, the Valley of the Kings, that is the area where all the burials of the pharaohs were taking place there, and one by one were discovered, and you could go down in the burial place. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, and then one river cruise was on the Nasser Lake. Well, what is the Nasser Lake? That is an artificial lake in the south of Egypt, not far away from the border with Sudan. They built a dam, and that is the Aswan Dam. The dam was built by the Russians. Nasser was the president at that time. He asked for money at the States and the European countries, but there were so many hooks and bells on the contract that he went to Russia, and Russia built that dam. And that dam was called the Nasser Lake. But that area was very populated with old temples and so. And what they did, they removed the temples bit by bit and removed it to higher places. That river cruise in the Nasser Lake, the ship more or less went where the temple was. So there was the temple, and they made a small dock. So from the ship you just could walk to the temple. One of the most famous temples is Abu Simbel, which they rebuilt stone for stone on higher grounds. And that flooded area, that Nasser Lake, is big, is huge, is 132 square kilometers. So all the places where we stopped were magnificent on those cruises. Luxor, Kamak, Valley of the Kings, Qom, and the Temple of Edfu. All very, very nice. But not only along the Nile, you're also in the desert in Egypt. It has its own breathtaking places. The White Desert, for example. It is like you are in a moon landscape. It is all filled with big plumes of white rock, like a mushroom, or some like a rabbit. You can imagine yourself in all kinds of figures when you see that, when you overlook that white desert. And we stayed there with a guide overnight. And in the night it is freezing.
Yes, cold. The temperature really drops at night, I've heard that.
Campfire and wearing big blankets. In one occasion my daughter came over, because that time my daughter was scuba diving instructor in Jordan. But she came 2 or 3 times to my place in Cairo. That there is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Wadi al-Hitan. And what do you see there? You see there hundreds of invaluable fossil remains of some 500, 800 million years ago. In that time, that area was a vast ocean. And now you saw the skeletons of whales, and the whales that time still had 2 legs
it had
at the
fins,
back.
Yeah,
because that time the whales...
they hadn't developed.
Yeah. Well, amazing.
God, the history.
Yeah. And there is so much to see in Egypt. My time was too short to see all the places. We spent there 4 years, more or less. And then my retirement came up. So it was the 1st of August, 2014. First I did a retirement course in Holland, because every person who is getting retired has to do 2 years before retirement a kind of retirement course. Do you have a testament? You know how to fill in tax forms. It was in a small castle in Holland. And also lectures of, well, suddenly you are at home, you have to share, you have to vacuum clean or do the dishes or all that kind of stuff. So I did it, so I was well prepared for my retirement. What happened on the 1st of August 2014? Yeah, so that was an end, I thought, to my globetrotting in the world. So I could rest, breathe, and get up late in the morning. But it didn't happen. So I moved from Egypt to Aruba.
So Pierre, why Aruba?
Yeah, Aruba. Well, I had a house there, yes, and that house I had it for, I think, 20 years or so. And I went to that house every time when I had leave. And during the time, I prepared that house for my retirement. So that's why I went to Aruba.
So next podcast, we're off to Aruba.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe on whatever platform you are using. It is free, and if you would like to tell your story, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.